This is our wonderful state-of-the-art form of medicine. Now, why are you guys laughing at this? This is a board-certified physician, and he's practicing standard medicine. Y'all have a better treatment for Jim? Anybody? Wise guys? I hear someone saying something. Remove the vice grip. Okay, that's not a bad suggestion. Wish we'd have thought of that earlier. But you know, this is a ridiculous scenario that I share with you. And I've shared this in talks before, and I get the same laughter, same weird facial expressions. But despite how ridiculous this scenario is, this is the way we practice medicine. That's the scary part about it. The scary part is that when we see patients come in, they come in with a proverbial vice grip on the thumb. That proverbial vice grip is the poor lifestyle that they live, more specifically, the bad food that they eat. But we start them on medication after medication after medication. They get procedure after procedure after procedure. And what happens is that they get sicker from the treatment as well as their primary illness. But we fail to remove the vice grip on the thumb. In fact, in Jim's scenario, the only reason his vice grip was removed because the thumb had to be amputated. And that scenario is not too far from the truth either. And so our standard way of practicing medicine is one that's deleterious and more harmful than it is beneficial, not to mention it's very expensive. And it's not so much the blood sugar by itself that's causing problems, but high insulin levels can cause problems too. And so that can lead to myocardial hypertrophy. It can lead to smooth muscle cell abnormalities in the vasculature. So individuals who are not diabetics, quote unquote, but pre-diabetics as we call them, who have insulin resistance, they'll have insulin resistance for many years, and they'll be laying down the groundwork for coronary artery disease, heart failure, et cetera, long before they get the diagnosis of diabetes. And in my opinion, patients I come in, once you've been diagnosed with diabetes, you have heart disease until proven otherwise, because you've had this long track of this insulin resistance that's also causing biochemical abnormalities physiologically, that's adversely affecting you physiologically. David has a little concept of a tree. And if you look at this tree, you have a lot of leaves and branches and a lot of different disease types. So instead of saying heart failure is a separate disease, heart failure is really one of many manifestations of one disease. Now, this main manifestation is poor nutrition. I can put other things here. I can use biochemical and physiological imbalance, but all of it's related to poor nutrition. That's at least the core. There's some other things that feed into it. But the bottom line is that there's one core cause of all of these different diseases. So if we think of disease states that way, then we can say, well, instead of me treating this, and this, maybe if I treat things here, I can be more effective. Because what I can tell you for sure is this. All of our patients who come in with congestive heart failure, they have other things too. Nobody comes in with one thing. Everybody has a list. They all have ticks and fleas. And so we have to address everything uniformly. What we do now is we give a pill for this, we give a pill for this, we give a pill for that, and give a pill for that. And then for all these pills we've given, they all have side effects. So the medication, when I give a medication there, guess what? That medication grows its own branch. That branch is called side effect branch. And so I got to treat side effect branch. And so you're treating conditions with pills, and then you have to treat the side effects with the pills you're using. So the concept is, can food be used to reverse heart failure? What do you think?
Yes.
Very good. So two key mechanisms of disease: inflammation, vascular dysfunction. Inflammation, I like to think of inflammation as your system being on fire. I don't know if anyone has arthritis, had any other inflammatory condition, but it feels like it's on fire. People that have arthritis in the joint's on fire. So inflammatory conditions can affect everywhere. They can affect the joints, it can affect blood vessels, it can affect cardiac tissue, other organ tissues, But inflammation can be a systemic problem and also a local problem. Vascular dysfunction is another problem that contributes to heart disease. So this is a cartoon of a vessel. Plaque builds up in these arteries over a long period of time. Notice that the disease starts in the wall. Inflammatory processes go. Then you have plaque development here. Then you have plaque rupture. You have a heart attack here. And then chronic stenosis over time. All of these lead to progressive deterioration of heart muscle and lead to congestive heart failure. This disease state here starts very early in life.
I really enjoyed your presentation, especially the David and Goliath analogy. And I guess it struck me, and I realized this a few years ago when I watched the documentary Fed Up, which you might be familiar with. But the Goliath is funded by treating disease,
That's right.
not preventing disease.
That's right.
So there's no financial motivation for the pharmaceutical or for these, thoracic surgeons and all to go to the source of what's causing it the way you have done. And what do we do about that? Because they'll be out of business if we prevent these diseases.
Yeah, so to answer the question, what do we do about it? I think we do exactly what you're doing here and now, is at the grassroots level. When I started doing this 15, 16 years ago, I was in Houston, and we had the little boot camp classes, and that colleagues around were laughing at me and things like that. And now many of them are referring. I have one colleague who's an interventional cardiologist, and I asked him to write praise from a book, and he wrote controversial diet, and he wouldn't remove the language, so I couldn't use his comment. But we were good friends over time, with church members and all that stuff. Over the years, I go to house get-togethers and bring all my raw food, and the process over time, he's seeing the evidence with patients that we share and so on. And now he's at a point where he even tried to do a raw detox. Every patient he has that needs a stent or needs bypass, he says you need to go on a plant-based diet. So he's actually been converted. Members of my Sunday school class, I remember I was talking about it, they said, this guy's crazy, he's extreme. But more than half of them now are eating plant-based. And I'm sure many of you have a similar story. So we do what we're doing, and you do it with the utmost excellence.
I've gone to 3 top doctors in Los Angeles that recommend the Mediterranean diet and Lipitor. I did not listen to their dietary advice, but they have scared me into taking Lipitor because one told me there are plenty of people in the graveyard that did not take their Lipitor. Here is the question. What is your feeling about taking Lipitor with a plant-based diet and exercise, or being on a plant-based diet and exercise with no medication? Yeah, that's the question. The pros and cons of taking Lipitor if you're already on what appears to be a plant-perfect diet.
Gotcha. Great question. First, I'll say that any response is not meant to be medical advice. And I do appreciate the specificity. What I will say is the following. I see a lot of patients who come with known coronary disease who have elevated cholesterol, and they're recommended to take a statin drug. What we do in our clinic is we try to intervene in a way to get the cholesterol levels down to total cholesterol less than 150, LDL, if you have known coronary disease, less than 80. We try to get these numbers down aggressively. We do it primarily with diet. There are also some superfood supplements can be provided. Berberine, for instance, is a supplement that inhibits PCSK9, which lowers LDL cholesterol. So we use some of these superfood supplements in addition to other things. Sometimes our patients need to be on prolonged detox regimen. Nutritional cleansing can be an aggressive approach, can require an aggressive approach. And that's why we use a food prescription, because we manipulate the diet in a way that we can get numbers, inflammation down and cholesterol down over a period of time. And sometimes you just need more of an aggressive diet. Think of it this way. If I give you a cholesterol pill or a blood pressure pill to lower your blood pressure, and I give you one dose and the pressure is still not lower, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the dose. Same thing with a nutritional regimen. If you start a nutritional regimen, you may be at one dose, but you may need to amplify or enhance the nutritional regimen to get a better response. And so that's what we find in our experience.
So what specifically is wrong with eggs and what's wrong with fish? A lot of people say, I don't eat beef, I don't eat a chicken, I just have fish, or I just have some eggs. So with just eggs and fish, what's wrong with those two foods?
Well, these have molecules that the body will see, and it triggers inflammation in the body. So the immune system will see certain molecules on the egg, certain molecules on the fish, because these are from animals that are inherently foreign. A cow, a chicken, fish, these are animals that are non-human. So let's say, for instance, I give an example for my patients. If you needed a kidney transplant and you needed a kidney, you're waiting, I say, I have a cow in the backyard. Why don't I get the kidney from the cow and, we can transplant it in you? And they say, well, no, that doesn't make sense. I said, well, why not? So the body would reject it. Well, how does the body know to reject the cow's kidney? Well, it knows to reject the cow's kidney because it recognizes foreign. Everyone has an immune system that recognizes something that's foreign. And so the protein on the cow, the protein on the chicken, the protein in the fish have molecules that are uniquely different than human proteins. And your immune system recognizes these substances. Well, it doesn't matter whether I implant the kidney in the vascular system or consume the kidney by mouth and it gets into my vascular system through my gut. The foreign aspects of the chicken, the fish, the cow, whether it's organic or farm raised or wild caught, it's still a foreign animal substance. And your body's immune system is revved up every time it's exposed to these foreign molecules.
I'm not doing it at this point in my life. I'm not changing to a whole food plant-based diet. Should they take a statin drug if they have, let's say, somewhat high cholesterol?
The first thing I say to them is thank you very much. I've got 4 kids that put through college, and the standard American diet contributes to high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attack, and stroke. And you're going to have to be in my office going through these procedures and generating income. And so I say thank you very much for the contribution to my kids' college fund. But the other thing I say, if they're not willing to make those changes and their cholesterol is high, the standard of care is to take a statin drug. And so, yes, I'll give them a statin drug. Now, they're consuming the first poison that they refuse to discontinue taking the first poison, so then I have to give them the second poison to treat the side effects of the first poison. Now, I'm only correcting a biomarker, and by and large. And so the statin drug will lead to other side effects that can have neurological side effects and muscle side effects. There, diabetes or insulin resistance. So there are other problems that are going to contribute to that. They're going to have to come back to the office to get more tests. So if their blood sugar's out of whack, then now, okay, great. You have diabetes now, we have to treat that. And oh, by the way, now we have to do Doppler studies on your legs. So that costs more money, and it goes to my kids' college fund. And we have to get a stress test, a nuclear stress test every year. And oh, if you have any chest discomfort, you might need a heart cath. And you have chest discomfort, we give ECP therapy. So if they continue to consume this bad food, they go down that cascade of sick care therapies, and that's the standard of care. And I'm obligated to provide that for them. My perspective then was that of exercise and cardiac rehab. However, as I got older and more mature in my practice, I was busy and successful in that regard, but I noticed that my health was a little bit not suboptimal, I'll say that much. I also noticed that my patients, despite all the advanced medications I was giving them and all the advanced therapies, we had defibrillator implants and various catheter ablation procedures. I was able to ablate pulmonary veins to get rid of atrial fibrillation, and ablate the ventricle to get rid of ventricular tachycardia, and implant devices. So all of these things were advancing, throughout my career. But I noticed my patients still got sicker, despite all of the advanced technologies. And so essentially, I said there must be something new or different. Around the time my mother's health started declining, she had some health issues. She was a diabetic, had coronary disease, and I had to manage her. And in managing her condition, I started to really realize that, this state-of-the-art health care, if you will, isn't really effective. I saw my patients decline, my mother's health decline, my own health decline. And I was always looking and reading. I started reading about different diets. In fact, I started applying many of these different diets in my practice. And they'll go unnamed, but various diets. And you're probably familiar with various names and titles and diet types. We got some benefit, but really nothing extraordinary. However, I noticed that I ran across this whole concept of plant-based foods. Now, every diet you look at, whether it's a calcium diet or whatever diet, they say eat fruits and vegetables. So it was always a common denominator, so eating fruits and vegetables. And so there were also these diets I ran across that says eat only fruits and vegetables. And so I said, that's interesting. So some diet says eat fruits and vegetables plus X. Other diet says eat only fruits and vegetables. So there's common denominators, fruits and vegetables. So as I gravitated toward this and I started running across people in the Houston area, mostly lay people, I started doing things like juice feasting and reading about that. And I did a 32-day juice feast myself and felt great and lost a lot of weight. And I noticed that when I started eating this way, my LDL cholesterol, which was 138, went down to less than 70. I didn't want to take medications. I prescribed them all day, but I certainly didn't want to take medications. So I was really amazed with this, and I started applying this therapy to my patients. And so it was quite difficult at first. I have a busy office, and there I'm sitting with a patient and writing out, diet plans and et cetera, eat this, not that, et cetera. One thing led to another. We started getting more and more success. And then the press got a hold of what we were doing. And so they came in and did an interview and talked to some of our patients. And the information went viral. Fox News, in fact, did a story, and information went viral. That's when I started meeting doctors like Dr. Neil Barnard and Dr. Colin Campbell, who saw the ad, or someone in the organization saw the ad. They reached out to us and said, hey, we like what you're doing, we'd like to help, et cetera. And in fact, in 2009, we were able to put together a conference for the general public in that area. It's not enough to say, okay, just eat healthier, or just eat plant-based, or just eat vegan, because you don't know what they're going to do. They may go out and fry everything, or whatever the case is, get things with chemical. So if you're going to give them a prescription for food, it has to be a prescription. If your doctor gives you a medication prescription, they give you a prescription, say, okay, take this pill this many times a day. They don't go and say, just go get some medication, go take some antibiotics. They say, no, take this. So we have to do that to a certain extent with food in the setting of trying to help someone reverse a specific illness. So we simply need a paradigm shift. The paradigm shift starts from the mental aspect of things, okay? The healthcare costs continue to rise, and medical advances, and we have wonderful advances. I work with some of the smartest people around. There's a lot that we're able to do, but these high-tech therapies don't reach the average person, and if they did, we couldn't afford to pay for it. I wish I was the first one to think of this, but other people, Dr. Thomas Edison, once stated, doctors of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, proper diet, and the cause and prevention of disease. We've all had injuries, maybe riding a bike, fall off the bike, fall off a tree, whatever. Maybe you scrape your arm, okay? That's an injury. You scrape your arm, what happens? It gets swollen, it becomes painful, red. That's an inflammatory response. Why? You had tissue damage, maybe capillaries are broken, maybe microvessels are broken or damaged. And so the body says, hey, we've got damage. There's a foreign process. So they send out, it's like a fire breaking out. So if a fire breaks out in this building, they'll call a fire alarm will go off, and then the fire department will come. And so let's say if it's a very large fire, there may be a 5 alarm, so maybe call 5 fire trucks. Maybe it's a small fire, it's called 1 fire truck. But you'll get an alarm and that'll trigger a response to a rescue system. And that's what inflammation is. You get an injury somewhere, there's a trigger to response for a rescue system. The rescue system is your immune system.